A few days later, when the terror caused by the executions had died down, some of the animals thought they remembered that the sixth commandment decreed no animal should kill any other animal. It was felt that the killings which had taken place did not square with this.
Clover asked Benjamin to read her the sixth commandment.
Not I. Nobody's ever seen a dead donkey.
And when Benjamin refused to meddle in such matters, she fetched Muriel to read the commandment for her.
No animal shall kill any other animal without cause.
Well, somehow or other, these last two words had slipped everyone's memory. But they now saw that the commandment had not been violated, for clearly there was good reason for killing the traitors who had linked themselves with Snowball.
Throughout that year, the animals worked even harder than the previous year. At times, it seemed they worked longer hours and fed no better than in Jones's day. But on Sunday mornings, Squealer would read us a long, reassuring list of some figures.
A production report for the week just completed. Hay production up 200%. Grains 300%. Milk 400%. Eggs 506.2%.
Animals, they saw no reason to disbelieve these impressive figures. All the same, Benjamin expressed a general sentiment when he said,
I'd rather have less figures and more food.
All orders were now issued through Squealer. Napoleon himself was not seen in public once in a fortnight. Even in the farmhouse, Napoleon inhabited separate apartments, took his meals alone, and always ate from a Crown Derby dinner service. It was also announced that the gun would be fired every year on Napoleon's birthday, as well as the other two anniversaries.
Napoleon was now and always referred to in the formal style as our leader, Comrade Napoleon. And the pigs liked to invent titles for him, such as Father of all the animals, Protector of the sheepfold, and Duckling's friend. In his speeches, Squealer would talk with tears running down his cheeks of Napoleon's wisdom, the goodness of his heart, and the deep abiding love he bore for all animals everywhere. It had become customary to give Napoleon the credit for every successful achievement. You would hear one king remark to another,
Under the guidance of our leader, Comrade Napoleon, I have laid 5 eggs in 6 days.
or 2 cows drinking in a pool would exclaim.
thanks to the leadership of Conrad Napoleon, how excellent this water tastes.
Meanwhile, Napoleon was engaged in complicated negotiations with Frederick and Pilkington. The pile of timber was still unsold, and Frederick was the most anxious to get a hold of it. But he would not offer a reasonable price. At the same time, there were renewed rumors that Frederick and his men were plotting to attack Animal Farm and destroy the windmill.
Frederick plots to bring against us 20 men, all armed with guns. And, comrades, have you heard about the terrible cruelties Frederick practices on his animals? He flogged an old horse to death. He starves his cows. He killed his dog by throwing it into the furnace. He amuses himself in the evenings by making cocks fight with splinters of razor blade tied to their spurs.
The animals' blood boiled with rage when they heard these things. Sometimes they clamored to be allowed to attack Finchville Farm and set the animals free.
Napoleon explained that he had never contemplated selling the timber to Frederick. The pigeons who were still sent out to spread tidings of the rebellion were forbidden to set foot on Finchville, and were ordered to drop their former slogan of death to humanity in favor of death to Frederick.
In the late summer, yet another of Snowball's machinations was laid bare. The wheat crop was full of weeds, and it was discovered that on one of his nocturnal visits, Snowball had mixed weed seeds with the seed corn. A gander who had been privy to the plot confessed his guilt and immediately committed suicide by swallowing deadly nightshade berries.
The animals now also learned that Snowball had never received the Order of Animal Hero First Class, as many of them had believed.
Well, this was merely a legend circulated by Snowball himself. Far from being decorated, he was actually censored for cowardice in the battle.
By autumn, the windmill was finished. Tired but proud, and walked round and round their masterpiece, which appeared to be beautiful in their eyes. But when they thought of how they had labored, what discouragements they had overcome, and the enormous difference that would be made in their lives when the salts were turning and the dynamos running, their weariness forsook them, and they came all around and around the windmill uttering cries of triumph. Napoleon himself came to the completed work. He congratulated the animals on their achievements, and he dedicated the edifice.
I hereby name this structure Napoleon Mill.
2 days later, the animals were struck dumb with surprise to learn that Napoleon had sold the pile of timber to Frederick. Throughout the whole of his seeming friendship with Pilkington, he had really been in secret agreement with Frederick.
Oh, the pigs were in ecstasy over Napoleon's cutting. By seeming to be friendly with Pilkington, he had forced Frederick to raise his price by 12 pounds. The squealer gloated.
Comrades, the superior quality of Napoleon's mind is shown in the fact that he trusted nobody. Frederick wanted to pay for the timber with something he called a check. But our leader was too clever for him. He demanded payment in real 5-pound notes to be handed over before the timber is removed.
And Frederick removed the timber with amazing speed. But 3 days later, there was a terrible hullabaloo. Mr. Wimper, his face deadly pale, came racing up the path on his bicycle and rushed straight for the farmhouse. And the next moment, the animals heard a choking roar of rage from Napoleon's apartment.
Death! Death to Frederick!
News of what had happened spread like wildfire. The banknotes were forgeries. Frederick had gotten the timber for nothing.
Napoleon called the animals together and in a terrible voice pronounced judgment on Frederick.
When captured, he shall be boiled alive!
At the same time, he warned them that after this treacherous deed, Frederick and some of his men might make their long-expected attack at any moment. 4 pigeons were sent to Foxwood with a conciliatory message, which it was hoped might reestablish good relationships with Pilkington.
The very next morning, the attack came. The lookouts came racing with the news that Frederick and his men were coming through the gate. Boldly, the animals sallied forth to meet them, but they did not have the same easy victory they had had at
All right, come on, boys, we got them this time.
There were 15 men with half a dozen
Open fire, boys.
who got within 50 yards.
Animals took refuge in the farm buildings and peeped cautiously out from the chinks and knotholes. The whole of the big post pasture, including the windmill, was in the hands of the enemy.
Napoleon seemed at a loss. He paced up and down, casting wistful glances in the direction of Foxwood. If Pilkington and his men would help, the day might be won. But at this moment, the pigeons returned, bearing a scrap of paper.
A message from Pilkington, Comrade Napoleon.
Quickly, what does it say?
Is he coming?
Will he help us?
What does it say?
Well, it says, serves you right.
Frederick and his men halted at the window. 2 of the men produced a crowbar and a sledgehammer. The animals watched them, and a murmur of dismay went round.
They're going to knock down the windmill.
Impossible! The walls are too thick. They cannot knock it down in a week. Courage, comrades!
But the men were drilling a hole in the bottom of the windmill. Slowly, with an air of almost amusement, Benjamin nodded his long muzzle.
I thought so. Do you see what they're doing? They're packing blasting powder into the hole.
In a few moments, there was a sudden... All the animals swung themselves flat on their faces, and when they got up again, a huge cloud of smoke was hanging where the window had been. slowly the breeze drifted it away. The windmill had ceased to exist. At this sight, the animals, fear and despair, were drowned in their rage against this violent attempt to blast. A mighty cry of vengeance. Without waiting for orders from Napoleon, they charged toward their body and made straight for the enemy. This time they did not heed the cruel pellets which swept them like hail. It was a savage, bitter battle. Now, 3 sheep and 2 geese were killed. Everyone was wounded. Nearly everyone except Napoleon, who was directing operations from the rear.
And the men did not go unscathed either. 2 of them had their heads broken by blows from boxers' hoofs. Another was gored in the belly by a cow's horn. And when the 9 dogs suddenly appeared on the men's flanks, baying ferociously, the cowardly enemy turned and ran for their lives. Animals chased them right down to the bottom of the field and down into last-minute kicks as they forced their way through the thorn hedge.
Weary and bleeding, the animals began to limp back to the farm. They halted in sorrowful silence at the place where the windmill once had stood. It was gone, all gone. Almost the last trace of their labor was gone. It was as though the windmill had never been.
But as they approached the farm, Squealer, who had unaccountably been absent during the fight, came skipping towards them, beaming. From the direction of the farm buildings, the animals heard the solemn firing of a gun.
What is that gun firing for?
But it's to celebrate our victory.
Victory? What victory?
What victory, comrade? Have we not driven the enemy off the sacred soil of Animal Farm?
But they have destroyed the windmill.
Oh, what matter? We'll build another windmill. We'll build 6 windmills if we feel like it. You do not appreciate, comrade, the mighty thing we have done. The enemy was in occupation of the very ground we now stand on. Now, thanks to the leadership of Comrade Napoleon, we have won back every inch of it.
And we've won back what we had before.
Well, that is our victory.
Boxer, who had suffered a split hoof, limped painfully back into the yard. He saw ahead of him the heavy labor of rebuilding the windmill from its foundations, and already in imagination braced himself for the task. But for the first time, it occurred to him that he was 11 years old, and his great muscles were not what they once had been.
When the animals heard Napoleon's speech congratulating them on their conduct, it did seem to them after all they had won a great victory. The animals slain in battle were given a solemn funeral, and it was announced that the battle would be called the Battle of the Windmill.
And Napoleon created a new decoration, the Order of the Green Banner, which he conferred upon himself.
A few days later, the pigs came upon a case of whiskey in the cellars of the farmhouse, overlooking the house.
Shots in the house, everybody. Shots in the house,
That
boys.
night there came from the farmhouse the sound of singing.
Animal Farm, drinking whiskey all night long.
All over how Mr. Jones's was distinctly seen to emerge from the back door, and then
Oh,
he galloped
Napoleon's drinking
rapidly around the
whiskey.
yard and disappeared indoors again.
But in the morning, a deep silence hung over the farmhouse. Not a pig appeared to be stirring, and it was nearly 9 o'clock before Squealer made his appearance. Walking slowly and dejectedly, his eyes dull, with every appearance of being seriously ill, he called the animals together and told them he had terrible news.
Hey, comrades, Comrade Napoleon is dying.
By a lamentation went up, and with tears in their eyes, the animals asked one another what they should do if their leader were taken from them. A rumor went round that Snowball had contrived to poison Napoleon. At 11 o'clock, Squealer came and made another announcement.
Oh, but as his last act on earth, Comrade Napoleon has pronounced a solemn decree. The drinking of alcohol is to be punished by death.
By evening, however, Napoleon appeared to be somewhat better. The following morning, Squealer was able to tell them he was well on his way to recovery. And the next day it was learned that he had instructed Whymper to purchase some books on brewing and distilling. The small paddock behind the orchard was to be plowed up. Napoleon intended to sow it with barley.
About this time occurred a strange incident. One night there was a loud crash in the yard, and animals rushed out of their stalls. At the foot of the end of the wall of the big barn where the 7 commandments were written, lay a ladder broken in two. Squealer was sprawling beside it, and near at hand lay a lantern, a paintbrush, and an overturned pot of white paint. None of the other animals could formulate any idea of what this meant, except old Benjamin. Nodded his long muzzle, knowing, and would say nothing.
A few days later, Muriel, reading over the 7 commandments to herself, noticed there was yet another of them which the animals had remembered wrong. They had thought that the 5th commandment was, no animal shall drink alcohol. But there were 2 words they had forgotten. Actually, the commandment read, no animal shall drink alcohol to excess.
Boxer's split hoof was a long time in. They had started rebuilding the windmill the day after the victory celebration. Boxer refused to take even a day off and made it a point of honor not to let it be seen that he was in pain. Clover treated the hoof with bandages, and both she and Benjamin urged Boxer to work less hard. But he would not listen. He had one burning ambition, to see that their windmill completed before he reached the age for retirement.
Now, at the beginning, the age of retirement